Hey, this is Charlie for 4A Music. In this video, we'll be talking about creating a professional lead sheet. A lead sheet or chart is a form of notation that provides the basic elements of a song, the melody, lyrics, and harmony. Crafting a really clear, detailed lead sheet will help you have more efficient rehearsals and reduce nerves in performance. A great lead sheet also signals to the other musicians that you're serious and prepared and that you value their time. It's also one of the fundamental ways that you can display your leadership. Format with the music in mind. Besides having all the correct information in your chart, formatting is key. Symmetrical systems should follow the phrasing of the song, meaning that if you have 4-bar phrases, your system should be 4 or 8 bars in length. This gives other musicians, particularly rhythm section players, a cue to the internal structures of the song. Another way to illustrate this is by using double bar lines. Double bar lines clearly illustrate the ends of sections. You shouldn't overuse double bar lines, but having somewhere between 4 and 8 of them per song is probably appropriate. If you can, try to place new sections at the tops of pages. This is another cue to the people reading it that there's a new section happening. You can also add a little bit of extra space between each section to increase readability. Things like the groove or the accompaniment patterns or sort of like dynamic ideas are different from section to section. So anything you can do to communicate to the musicians that there's a change in section will help those transitions go more smoothly. Following the basic roadmap of a chart is super important. So make sure you carefully place important directions like to coda or DS on the bar line and at the end of systems if possible. Also make sure that repeats are within one page so there's not any sort of scrolling that has to happen. When it comes to accidentals and chord symbols, stick to a key. Don't mix sharps and flats. For example, if you're in the key of E flat, use A flat, not G sharp. This basic common sense editing tip makes it so much easier to read and decode, especially if someone's reading your chart for the first or second time. Rehearsal letters. The initial and primary goal of a lead sheet is to aid in the rehearsal process, given that the final goal for performance should be playing the song by memory. For most songs, 3 to 6 rehearsal letters are enough to give direction. The goal is to place rehearsal letters where you'll want to start and stop in rehearsal. This means the beginning of sections or time or field changes. Rehearsal letters are not formal analysis. So for instance, AABA is a form, and it's confusing as a rehearsal letter structure. Saying you want to start at the second A or the last A may be fine for a really simple song, but saying that you want to start at the second A the third time through the form starts to get really confusing. So the form of AABA in rehearsal letters should instead be A, B, C, and D. The goal is to have something that can be easily and clearly called out and understood in rehearsal without any further explanation. For instance, let's start at letter D. Measure numbers can work just as well, but for lead sheets, letters just seem to be clearer. It's really kind of a preference thing, so I would say that if you're a numbers person, go for it. Be consistent if you can, though. I'm sure you've heard this before, but less is more. This is super important. Limit your lead sheet to 1 to 3 pages. The last thing you want to do when you're reading through a lead sheet is turning pages. If it's more than 3 pages, it means you have to do a little bit more formatting, or you might have to give musicians individual parts. Like if you had a really specific piano part or something like that, just give the piano player their own part instead of giving everybody a 5-page chart. Use things like repeat signs, multiple lines of lyrics, DS and DC to simplify the form. This will reduce the length of your charts, but also give musicians a little bit of a break from reading so they can just play. It's really comforting to see a repeat sign because you know what to do. You already know what to do. You can just focus on playing and listening. You can reduce the type size and the overall size of the printing to increase negative space. Negative space really helps with readability, and you can get past that kind of big note piano style of formatting. Finally, Focus on the essentials. For example, if you plan on changing the melodic phrasing or rhythm in the second verse, you really don't need to include that on the chart. I think that'll be just generally understood that it's totally cool. If it means the chart could be a little shorter and a little clearer, that's a huge win. Iteration is cool. It's cool to iterate. Make clear notes during rehearsal and update your chart afterwards. If there are changes to form, chords, or anything significant enough that everyone in the room had to make some scribbles, it's time to update your chart and print it out again. Through a rehearsal process for an important concert or recital, I might print out 5, 6, 7, 8 versions of the chart as the chart gets better, as the song gets better. It's totally cool, and it makes your music, it improves your music, and that's what we're here to do. A good chart is never done. If you adopt this mindset, you won't feel frustrated if you need to update, reprint, or resend your lead sheet. Again, your music will be better for it. And that's it for lead sheets. Any questions or thoughts are welcome in the comments below. And if you happen to think this video was cool, consider giving it a like and subscribing to our channel below. This has been Charlie for 4A Music. Thanks for watching. A little bonus tip is I highly recommend saving your lead sheets to the cloud. Google Drive and Dropbox are your friend. You can skip the backing up process by saving your charts to the cloud from the start. Losing a chart to a failed hard drive is devastating, and it's easily avoidable. It's also a cool time capsule to be able to go back and see all the stupid charts you made. It's cool to iterate. For instance, let's start at letter D.